determination of appropriate scope of work, to make recommendations for marketing budget allocations, and to monitor and evaluate effectiveness of the marketing and tourism programs. So that is everything that you have been discussing and you're in progress of discussing, but we still have this, this item today is to talk about what does the future of marketing looks like. And so just to clarify, how the committees and council appointees structure exists in the city. Obviously, the city council is elected by the residents of Solving. They're the governing body. They do appoint the planning commissioners, the design review committee, the tourism advisory committee, the city attorney, and the city manager. The planning commission and the design review committee have some powers vested in or given to them that are their final decision making. The tourism advisory committee is an advisory committee to the city council. And then I wanted to have a section a little bit stepping back to what's been discussed already. The Solving is a travel destination. Obviously, there's been this various efforts that Solving undertakes in maintaining itself as a tourism destination and its marketing efforts. Part of that is Solving having its own marketing efforts, which is what we are talking here today. There's either an organization or a consultant that works on behalf of the city of Solving particularly. And Solving is also part of the TIBID, the Tourism Improvement District, which encompasses the entire Santa Ynez Valley, the city of Buellton, and an unincorporated area. And that is managed by the Visit SYV, who focus on marketing efforts for the entire Santa Ynez area. And then, of course, there's the chamber, who are supporting the businesses. Obviously, the businesses are the heart of the tourism economy, and that is the economy of the city. That is the heart of the economy of the city. And the chamber supports those who actually deliver all the services that tourists get to enjoy once they get to Solving. With that, just wanted to present some of the questions that you had asked before, various committee members had asked before, as to, how was it done before, what were the budgets. So essentially, prior to 2019, for a long time, the marketing services were provided by SCVB, as you all know. Their latest budget in the year of 2018-19, which was their first or last year serving the city of Solving as a marketing arm, was $775,000.
How much?
That's about $775,000 for the year. That included the visitor center operations within that amount. That is detailed in attachment B, where you can review exactly what they were spending those monies on. There's a budget and an actuals for those. And then there is an example of IDK's program for marketing and the costs as of this year, as an example, 21-22. So you will see the scope of work that they just completed or are in process of completing for the first half of the year, and then there's also what's proposed has been approved, and we are working on finalizing that contract for the second half of the year. And I did add the $99,000 per year cost in the comparatives, because if you want to kind of get as close to apples and apples and oranges, we need to have that in there. And we do happen to have IDK also run the visitor center right now. On page 13, I just have put together kind of a SWOT analysis of the different options that were discussed before. The city can continue to contract a private company. That was the direction from the council to develop an RFP. Some of the cities, and another option would be to be performed by a city employee, and then finally to have a nonprofit organization such as SCVB. Those were some of the questions that were brought up, and you can review that table and discuss if you would like. And then on page 14, we have the comparable or side-by-side budgets comparing the SCVB and IDK work and the dollar amounts that go into that. And you can see if you look through this, and you can look in the attachments through, a more detailed display of that. There's been quite a bit of transformations, definitely rather different pockets of spending and focus and priorities. The events that used to be managed by SCVB were Yule Fest, Taste of Solving, and Stomp. Some of you may be more familiar than me with how they ran exactly and where the revenue came from and the expenditures. But you see that clearly there was quite a bit of revenue also generated from those events. And then there is expenditures for each of the events as well. And then, with SCVB, you will notice that there is quite a bit of money that was invested in print media, for example. There's also about $100,000 that was invested in travel and trade shows. So those are the elements that you currently don't see under the contracts with IDK. What you do see with contracts with IDK, and where the shift is that there is a lot more focus on social media and digital assets. In addition to that, I just want to point out where I think sometimes there's a little bit of confusion with, where does the Parks and Recreation, or now it's just Recreation Division, comes in, and who is doing what. With IDK joining the city, they joined the city via an RFP that was issued specifically for Yule Fest management in 2019. And then as contracts developed and were approved by City Council, they also became the manager of events for the city, or sort of the concierge for any events that there's attendees over 1,000 people. So those are now all being processed through IDK before they're permitted by the city. That used to be a function that was not part of the marketing. That used to be a function that was part of city management. So it was between Parks and Recreation and also our community resource deputy back in the day. And so it's a sort of a different component that happens to be under IDK's management right now as a marketing component. And then the city, of course, continues to manage events that are smaller in nature, under 1,000 people. So those would be more of the community events that are aligned with recreation. Recreation really serves the local community. And it's not so much, it's not focused on marketing, it's focused on providing recreation opportunities for our residents and our community. And so those would be more like the high school parade and the elementary school parade. So I just wanted to outline that's been the transformation and where we are. You have in your attachments here all the details on the materials that Member Hamburg had submitted. You have the last SCDD contract as well as their budget attached for 2018-2019, and then you also have the current contract for IDK. So I think where we need to start getting to and provide additional, or your committee would provide additional recommendations for the city council, is what you see as the future of marketing, what's that organizational structure, and of course what are those components of future marketing contracts and the RFP development. I'll open the floor to the committee.
Let's go around, because Max, do you want to start? Any comments or?
You're on mute. Max, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
All right, let me think about that. You guys go ahead and carry on, and I'll put some thoughts together here.
Okay, Tracy?
I think one of the things we talked about was in the last meeting was, do we want an executive director, and kind of go back to some of the things. Or, I'm trying to look at the money with the visitor center and with what we're spending. We're not too far away, and then we have this, $120,000 that we're not spending on international travel. And how much duplication do we have with social media is my question. I know they're doing a good job, but which organization is doing a good job? And there really are no metrics to make those decisions on. I mean, there's never a good metric on marketing. There's just not.
Okay. John, do you have any comments?
Let me just think about this a second. Kim, do you have anything?
Yeah, I like what Max had put together. I know it goes backwards to what we did before, but I thought it was very successful. I do like IDK and I do like Scott and his marketing. And I would really be disappointed if we didn't have a piece of what he does in our future. And I think he's proven himself more so, and I think that we need to have that part. We're not that educated in what we do under what he does, and he knows that field much more than we could ever know in our lifetime. So I just think that I would hate to lose that. He's already been in there. We can all decide how much percentage-wise he's involved. But I think it'd be a disservice to us right now to lose him altogether. That's my feeling.
Yeah. Well, what I want to say is that I think it would be really a mistake for us to make a change right now going into 2022 when we had one of the best Christmas seasons we've ever had. Actually, the best fall we've ever had. And I recommend that we continue with IDK through 2022 and let them start planning and marketing for all of our great fall events that we're going to have. And let them have a long term to plan. You know, they really started planning for Yule Fest like in September. You know, now they're going to have 6 months out they can be planning. So I recommend that we stick with that right now. I love their analytical and all the reports that they give. So I agree with Kim, you know, that we should really not change anything right now.
Yeah, I agree with them. I think Scott's a very important part of things. He does a great job on the social media. They did a great job Christmas. And I'm just thinking about the future. I mean, the events we have in town, we're starting with the Taste, then going to the 4th of July, then Danish Days, Yule Fest, and then we had a stomp involved. I know Danish Days, I'm on the committee, we do that fairly well. We'll access Scott and his expertise there. And the 4th of July is fairly well handled by the Rotary clubs in town. I think they do a good job, although I'm sure they could use some help as well. I just think, I think we need some people, feet on the ground from the city level. When we have troubles, when we're doing parades, I think bringing in people from IDK to do some of the events, it becomes troublesome. I mean, we can talk over the phone and through emails, but face to face and looking at stuff, I still think we need more participation, I guess. I mean, I like the chart, the marketing services, alternatives, and the strengths and weaknesses. I think it needs to be we need to combine all three. City needs to be involved. I think Scott needs to be involved. I think we need a little more help on this committee coming up with an RFP to go out to get other people to help. I mean, I think some of us are a little confused on how to budget stuff out, I think I see that we're just going to tell them what we want and let them figure out the budgeting of it, because there's not too many of us that are great on budgets here. I know Barry does it. I mean, I have one at the shoe store, but big budgets like that, I think we need some guidance on from the people that are doing the program. So that's my feeling, and I concur with Barry. I mean, 2021 is the best year I think Solvang's ever had. I think we'll get most merchants to agree it's never been better. Why? Is that a perfect storm that COVID brought it in? Is it because the hotel association spent money? Is it because IDK did it? It's hard to pinpoint, as Kim said, hard to put a figure on who did what. But I think it was a combination of everything that made it work out really good this year. So again, I commend Scott for what they did. For UFest, I thought it was a great program.
Yeah, I feel very confident in the job Scott and IDK are doing. I appreciate their what they're doing with social media. I was impressed with the parade, and I really appreciate all the presentations we've received. I feel like they've been clear. We've gotten our questions answered. We know what they're doing. We know what they'd like to do, and that's important, having the communication so we can work with them to set out a budget.
Anyone else? Cheryl? Cheryl, you can definitely talk at this. I know you can't vote, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of just listening to what you guys are talking about, having the background in the DMO world and working for a destination, there are resources out there that I can tap into to get, you know, types of RFPs for different types of these kind of roles, if you want me to do that, because they do kind of exist. But yeah, I'm not sure what the issues were in the past, but having someone part of the city, I think also works as well. But yeah, you can do it a lot of different ways, but happy to pull some resources if that would help the committee.
Okay. So when would we talk about bringing Cheryl back onto the board? And I want to discuss one other person as well. Can we do that? Or
So,
separate?
Cheryl Schellenberger was appointee of Mayor Pro Tem. The way that the committee is set up is that each council member gets to appoint one member. There's no ratification by the majority of the council.
Okay.
And then there is two other seats, the number 6 and 7, to get it to 7. Those are appointed by majority of the council. So because this resignation was by Mayor Pro Tem, and she has expressed the desire to reappoint Cheryl Schellenberger, that will be on the agenda on Monday, and it will be up to the Mayor Pro Tem to take that action.
And very happy to have Cheryl. I think it's probably because we changed the time, and I think we
Yes.
settled for 3:30.
Correct. So 3:30 is working for Cheryl again. She couldn't do the 9 o'clock.
Thank you.
Great, Cheryl. I'm not ready to do this nomination yet, but I was talking to Anna Ferguson Sparks, and she did show, I think, some interest in joining the committee, but that's open for discussion. We haven't done anything, just talking about it, because she has so much experience in marketing, and we were talking about all this stuff. Is that something, if we formally invited her, we could do, and do we agree on that? Do we need to have discussions on it?
That's not on the agenda today, and also this committee was formed by by the council. So as of now, there's only 7 seats.
Okay, so
If you wanted to put something on the future agenda,
so
we could
that's
talk
why
about that.
I'll ask this committee right now if we want to consider to do that.
So if we could do that during your comments at the end, after
Okay.
you are done with this item, that would be.
All right. So we're back to IDK, and I think last time we said we wanted them to do Taste of Solvang, the Stomp event. There was some other discussions, billboard advertising, and Restaurant Week. We all know Restaurant Week is up in the air right now. It's just around the corner, so there's some, COVID is playing its role in that. So according to Shelby, the Restaurant Weeks is going ahead. It's just a matter of anyone can actually do it. So that won't be really IDK, that's too late for that. It's already started, but the Taste of Solvang, I think it was our biggest thing we wanted them to work on, correct? How do we
Right.
do an RFP on that? That's the question. right?
So I think, last time you already made recommendations to what the scope of work for IDK should be through June 30. That was taken to council and was approved. So
Okay.
that is in there.
So that's done.
That is done.
All right.
The only thing that's not done there is that there was $75,000 remaining where we should put an item on a future agenda, maybe the next time, to discuss your recommendations, and IDK will be at that meeting.
Okay.
What should be done with that last pot of money. Other than that, the item in front of you today is to develop recommendations for the city council for the long-term marketing services contract, including the RFP development and organizational structure. So what you need to decide today is, do you want to continue with contracting, or, well, the direction from the city council was already to issue an RFP. So if you brought up as a committee a desire to discuss and look at other options. So you could either say that you want to continue contracting out, it's your recommendation, to a private contractor like IDK. You could make alternative recommendations that you would like to see some other structure. And then you can make recommendations for what that RFP should look like for the future. Or basically what you're discussing is what should be the scope of marketing going into the future. We'll put together the actual RFP and write it. You just need basically your ideas of what you want to see. I mean, if it's, you have on page 14, for example, comparison of where marketing used to be under SCDB management and where the money went, where the focus was, and where it is today for this year. So if you like exactly what it is in 21-22, if you want some elements brought back from 18-19, or if you have some additional ideas, that's the kind of input that we need to hear from you so we can put together that scope of work for the RFP.
Okay. Can we get some input from the committee? Max, anything?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what to say. I guess we should, I propose that we extend the IDK contract to the end of the year. But I just have a question. How do we come up with a scope of work when the contestants, for lack of a better word, IDK, is listening to what we're doing? How can we have a private meeting and get these things together and then present them to you without, if we want to discuss something about IDK, for instance, they're listening. It's not, it's kind of hard to get that together when people are, I guess. Does that make sense?
Haven't we been doing that though, Max? We've had meetings
What
with
was
that. Haven't we been doing that? Why can't we continue that? We've had meetings without them. We've asked.
No, we can't. These are public meetings. Anybody that wants to listen to this meeting can and does. And incognito, not even knowing we're being watched.
We're being watched.
I don't know,
I'm gonna say this, I don't have a problem with IDK, I have a problem how money is allocated to social media and how much money is being spent. And I really think I don't wanna feel like I'm being pushed every month. I really think we said we were gonna take a look at a scope of work for an executive director and the company, and they can wait patiently, and there is no problem. We asked them to put a budget in for the stop. We have, did we get the question, did we get it? Do we have the full thing? I'm not quite sure, and I feel like budgets are hard for them. We could do better working with another organization in Buellton or, other ones in, Carpinteria that do events. There are other places out there that do great events for organizations. I think Cheryl has, the pulse to what, destination marketing does and can help us with Anna, no matter what, write an RFP, and that's the problem since we started this program last year. Where is the RFP? No, we don't have any say on 2021. We have a say now. We do not need to move forward and pushing a contract forward before we have some tangible items to look at, and that is my personal opinion, and that's why I'm on here.
What do you mean by that tangible? What are you looking for, Tracy?
I think I'm looking for a real budget. I know how to put a budget together. I run off a budget.
So you want to
I
say,
feel like we pretend that we know, all of us don't work off budgets. John's worked off multi-million-dollar budgets. I've done $1 million payroll budgets. And
So,
I feel
Tracy,
like we're spinning here a little bit.
do you want them to tell you how much they're going to spend on Instagram and Facebook?
Yes,
or
I
just-
do.
and-
I expect to know that, are they paying for it? Are they doing totally that? I see a girl going around and she told me she was paid. I want to know how many paid staff. We paid for, let's go into what was good. Yes, about Christmas, there were some things that weren't so good. We didn't have enough light tours. We didn't have enough. I find that they're at 25, 30 hours a week. When I talk to Sue over there, people aren't on a 40-hour work week. Sometimes when it was rain, they closed down. It doesn't matter. You don't close because it rains. People still are out there. And I think we have to look at some of that of our, exact what we're getting our money's worth and what we're doing. That's all I'm saying. I'm not attacking, but
No.
we have to look at the good and the bad. And I think we have to look at what we're getting for our money and what the city is getting for their money. That's what we're supposed to be doing here and I hate when we did Brenda's contract. I'm gonna go back to that. Oh, we can't take it over July 1st because that's the middle of the tourism season, so we have to move it to September. All that is garbage. If when you hire professionals, they come on and they know how to do the job. Just like when we hire people, they come on and they become the city mayor, they can become the mayor, they become the supervisor, and they're the chair, and they're the first time. We hire professional people that know how to go into the jobs. That's why we give them the contracts.
All right, Tracy. Kim, you have anything?
Yes, I'd like to say that IDK Scott is professional, and I think he's done a great job so far, and I'm not saying anything against what you're saying, but I truly believe that we cannot micromanage. We're not in the institution to micromanage people. This company here has come through with some things, and unless someone else can come in, which we'll probably end up doing, I think we cannot micromanage, and I don't want to micromanage. I don't think, that's my opinion. And they did so many good things, and they have done some good things. I think we need to stay on track, if you have certain things that you want addressed, do it. But overall, then we're gonna be sitting there every time he makes a move. He's not gonna wanna do anything with us. I'm sorry, I just feel that we cannot micromanage anybody, not him, anybody else that comes in and does an RFP with us. That's my voice.
John?
Well, I think that IDK is a known product right now. We've worked with them for over a year, and they've proven to do a good job. When you talk about the budget, I see a budget right here that they put out that's been done, and I think it's very clear what they've spent and what they're getting. We know what the city's paying them. So I don't know what we're talking about the budget. So I don't follow you on that, Tracy.
All right.
Okay.
I think we said we wanted last month to looking at an executive director position or a position that worked out of the city that had a little more control and we had feet on the ground. And I feel like we need to have that. That's all I'm saying, to go back to where we were a little bit with an oversight committee. It was brought up by Max in the last meeting. It was on the agenda. We received information on it at the end of the meeting. It was supposed to be made public within our packet.
Okay, so let's do this. It's come down to the IDK. We did bring up, or it was brought up, and that's true, about an executive director. What do we want to do? I don't know. I think.
So, let me just be clear. If we hire an executive director, that's gonna be an added expense over anything else that we're spending. The executive director, we're gonna have to have 75, 80 to 100,000 a year for an executive director.
If you were to recommend a position at the city for
They could
some
say
type
yes or
of
no, right?
marketing person, it would be a different expense. You could shift some of the money to that position and lessen,
From
you know,
IDK.
from any contractor. So I think
Well,
where
that's
we
up to
are,
the city.
if I would, I think I would like us to step back. I mean, the direction I have from the council is, and, you know, this committee was formed, was to look at an RFP and the content of marketing and what is needed for the city. And all of you are, you know, close to the business community, part of the business community, who are here to advise, or professionals in this field, as was outlined in the ordinance that formed this committee, to advise on what works for solving what is needed for the future of marketing. I think we keep getting into this conversation with IDK, which is that, I mean, obviously IDK is one of the bidders. They already said that they would bid. They're interested in the business, but that was not the intent of this particular item, for example, to discuss whether it's IDK. It's more like it's the private company.
Yeah, just a contract.
Right, it's a contractor.
Right. Independent contractors, so,
Yeah.
yeah,
The question is,
I
do
don't
we
know
want to
whether we
propose
need
an
to hire
executive director or not?
executive
Yes, I think it's gonna come down to that, and that's,
What did you say? I'm sorry, I missed that.
I don't know whether we need to hire an executive director, that's.
The question is, should we hire or propose to the city to pay for and have an executive director? That's the question on the table.
Okay, on that note, I mean, an executive director will cost money, but that would be taken away from another budget. It's still under the 600 or 1,000 or
Right.
million or whatever we do.
Let's not worry about the
Right.
money, it's the position. Do we
Right,
want to
right.
recommend?
Okay, I get
But
it.
it's shifting money from one thing to another. It's not gonna cost anymore, it's just the way, they have an executive director in Scott, he costs X amount, whatever that is. We don't know, but that's because it's private. If it was a nonprofit, we would know, we'd have that in the budget, we'd know, but we still have an executive director. Now, if we're talking about executive director, we need one locally, in my opinion, but we don't. Right now, I guess what we're looking at is, should we go with IDK for the rest of 22 so we can get this out of the way and go on down the road? And then maybe in 23, we could discuss breaking off like I had, or forming some sort of system like we had before. But right now, I think we need to give the contract to the end of the year so we can work on that and tell him what we want done in that time period.
Okay, comments, Alexander, Cheryl?
Yeah. I like what Max said.
Tracy?
I agree.
When I look at the budget that was presented last week, and it was presented at city council also, there is a lot of question in that budget as an independent contractor that we're paying for. I have never seen hotel rooms included in an independent contractor's budget of how things that I'm paying for food costs, on food and beverage costs for travel. I question those items, $5,000 for Zoom. I mean, it says it right on there, and that's very high.
It's what they spend. I mean, that's out of their budget. There's nothing we can do about it.
They cannot break it down and just put it under an expense line item. They could do it that way, and you wouldn't even know what they spent.
Going outside the box again.
That's why I think, I just question the money, that's all, and that's what I do. And I'm sorry, and that is, you guys brought it up a couple months ago, I started looking at things, we asked for a budget in October, November, we got it in December, it was at the December city council meeting. I'm just saying, I'm looking at the budget, right at the same, it's also in the packet. I just have some questions on it of how money is spent, and our job is to be an oversight and due diligence, that's all I'm saying.
Okay?
Okay.
Cheryl, anything?
Yeah, well, I would say it sounds like if a hire, right, a person in Solvang, feet on the ground, is to be hired, that's definitely gonna take some time. It seems like IDK is doing a good job, so I would say that 6 month, carry on through to get someone on board. However, if it takes a fine tooth comb to go through that budget they proposed, I think that seems reasonable as well. If I can look at the numbers correctly, their budget, what they're proposing, is not much less of what it was when there was a DMO. So that does seem high for an agency when you compare those two, in my thoughts. So maybe there are some things that could be removed, in my opinion, or at least the cost be brought down.
Would you like to, at some point, just let's not forget to open it to public comment, because we have at least one other person,
Oh, okay.
member of the public. You want to open it to public
Yep.
comment? So we have, if anybody would like to make public comment, if you would just unmute yourself. See that.
Okay. This is interesting. Cheryl, I thought that was very good what you said, but I think what we have to do is, and I'm trying to put this in a little package so we can go forward, is I think we all agree, and I agree, that we like IDK. I propose that we extend them to the end of next year, just because a lot of the stuff we want done doesn't work until June the 30th. We're already in January. We need them for the year. I do agree with Tracy as well that, yeah, we need to understand what they're spending money on, and we're the oversight committee. So next time IDK's here, I said to Scott before, it's not, we're just a business. It's like I have 22 investors. I've got to report to them every week. It's the same thing. IDK, I think the argument is, do we want executive director, or is IDK Scott the executive director? I think for this year, we stick with IDK, and Scott's the executive director. We're the oversight committee, and he has to explain, and we have questions for him. He explains to us, and everything but what we've laid out we want to do, the cost of it, and we discuss it every month. He should be on the call. And then if we want to do an executive director, I do agree it should be a local person, but I wouldn't do it this year. I think we wait. I think this is you don't have to cram everything into 1 year. Maybe we take a look at that later on and go into next year. I think we need to get IDK going. I think we need to support them, and we need to ask the tough questions and get the answers back as we go every month, as we talk to Scott and IDK. That's how I see it.
Is that what you're looking for, Zena, today?
Yeah.
If that
Looking for a lot more.
If that is going to be your recommendation, that is one recommendation that the TAC could make by majority vote, and I would take it to the city council and get their further direction.
Can I?
Yes.
Okay. going off of yours,
Mhm.
jumping off, I would just say that, because if we just, the last quarter, we do an RFP for a contractor, okay?
Mhm.
Whether it's a contractor or it's a person
Mhm.
that we want to hire, that we start the wheels turning in the last quarter.
Mhm.
Because we don't want that, all of a sudden, they come on January 1st, if we do,
Right.
where are we helping them, or are we hindering them? So
Right.
I want to give them a head start, so I would like to think that.
I absolutely, I think that's perfect. I agree. I just don't think trying to do it now, maybe is, I'd like to see, I was totally impressed what IDK did for the holiday season. Period. I was here, I saw it. It was the best ever. They're working on new things. We need to give them a year, so I want to propose that. And then as we move through this year and we see how they do and how we interact, we can decide on, as you said, a local executive director, but we bring the, if we're gonna decide to do that, I think we should not decide on that today. We bring it up next meeting after, but by the fall, bring them on for the following year. I agree. Well, it's up to you. I mean, that's what I recommend.
Yeah, I agree with Barry. I do agree with you, and I think that we go this year, finish out the year. You know, we're almost through January, and we finish out the year, and by June of this year, that we start
Thinking about,
laying the groundwork for our plan for 2023.
don't forget, it's all we have to do is, we've got to recommend, say in June, to the council that
Right.
we want to go that
June
direction.
of this
They may
year.
say no, or they may say yes, so that's
Yeah, and
what
I'm
we have to
open to
do.
June, September, I don't care, as long
Right,
as.
I
we
totally agree
show
with
that
that.
we show council that we want to move forward.
Is there anyone that disagrees? Speak up, we're, you know.
Do you think you could have some recommendations by June or so, just to align it with the next budget
Yeah.
year
I
recommendations?
still want to carry on discussing about executive director, I just don't think we make that decision today. I think we've got a guideline, we talked about it. June would be a time where, if we're gonna do it, or recommend it, it would be then, because then we gotta find that person and bring them on board in the fall. I totally agree with that. And meanwhile, it's IDK, it's the things that we've given to, you know, what we want to work on, and it's then the interaction and holding accountable oversight with IDK and back to us on an ongoing basis. But we also are going to extend them to the end of the year.
I think it's a soft landing for our future too, so we want to have a soft landing, because when we just cut to the chase and then we start fresh, we don't have somebody, so we need to finish with IDK and then have something in the, loaded up, ready to go,
Right.
by at least the fourth quarter, with something, some direction.
I mean, really, I think IDK's they've proved themselves. I think it started off a little rocky. We wanted more interaction, and I think they've opened up, and I see good stuff. I think this is a good start. I just think we need to go back to the council and say, hey, let's just work it through the end of the year, because June's gonna be here like this. And yet, we all know market, and I'm sure Cheryl would agree. You can't really just give them 6 months. I mean, we did it because it was desperation. We had to make a decision, but we wanted to work on all the stuff we wanted to work on, so that's the record. Welcome to disagree, otherwise we're gonna take a vote on this.
And I'm still trying to figure out how we're going to get the input for an RFP together.
Yeah, we're all confused on that. It's, I think, the only thing, if we get this part done, we could do, or we could wait till the next one, we could do a special session where we say, okay, we've got the items picked out, we get IDK with us, and we're saying, we've got the budget from the past, what it costs. Have the costs gone up? Do we approve what it was 2019? Do we increase that, make a recommendation? That's the only way I know how to do it. So when I did my budget for this year, I said, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna carry on, or are we gonna stay flat? So I came up with 3%, put that on the room revenue, put it through, and then it's up to someone to say yeah or nay. So it's the same thing with IDK. We just want to know, we want to make sure we oversight, we got to know what they're spending it on, right?
So if I could interject
Yes,
here a
please
little
do.
bit. I think with IDK, if your recommendation is going to be to the city council to extend the contract through the end of the calendar year of 2022, so it would be instead of a 6 months extension,
Yes.
a year extension. Yes, you can meet as we did last special meeting with IDK and talk through what that next 6 months budget would be. Let's maybe just take a moment and talk through what it is that's confusing about the RFP, because we're not getting anywhere there. And I will pull the resources and whatever you need to get through that, but I need to understand.
Well, I think
what
we've all
you
got
need.
our own, I understand hotels and budgets, all right? That's what I do for a living. I don't really understand it from marketing. It's like, I've always been taught marketing is a pie in the sky, you put money to it and you just hope that it works. Right? But you try to get as much, you want a return of investment and you try and track it as much as you can. But marketing is the hardest thing in the world in the hotel business to actually know if it's working. I thought the presentation they put together with everything in marketing, including social media, was very good, and it made sense to me.
Right.
And then I see what they've done and what happened in the last few months. I'm very happy with it.
So obviously, IDK wants to bid on the next RFP. They have said that they will be one of the, it's our expectation that they will be one of the bidders for whatever that RFP looks like. You can take the RFP process as detailed or as broad as you want. I mean, the purpose of the RFP, request for proposals, is just to open it up to see who wants to work with City of Solvang, who is available, and what can they bring. So you could have it as very broad categories and say, we want social media aspect of it, we want some KPIs tracked, we want, our focus is on social, or our focus is on print media. That's kind of the shift that has happened.
You're right. I think this group, what we're saying, other than Cheryl, is we don't have the expertise to even comprehend what we're talking about. Honestly, that's why Cheryl's important, and that's why I think Anna, that's what they do, can help us.
Zena, you want us to tell them we want Eulafest, we want Danish Days, we want you to spend $40,000 on social media, but there's things that come up like when getting movie events to come to town, getting TV to come to town, those things just are in the spur of the moment. You can't plan those out ahead.
No,
you
you
need
can't.
or maybe you can, maybe Cheryl can tell us, but to get the Hallmark, when they came and made a movie at Kim's and down there, how did that happen? Somebody called and said, we want to make a movie in town. We didn't go out and get them.
Right.
I don't believe, I'm not sure.
In the past, or over the last year or two, some of those commercials, and some of them come naturally to Solvang because we are just a known destination, like the Disney have contacted us directly because we are a known destination, and some of it is outreach, like the show that we did with the Dinner Impossible. That was IDK's reach out to.
He got that?
Yep.
He went out and found that?
He did find that. That was a specific outreach. That was during the time when we couldn't really have events yet, and so that was sort of, another version of having something like an event that we could have under COVID conditions in lieu of an event. So I think where you don't need to necessarily get too worried about is picking out, how much money you want to spend on social media. You don't need to go to that detail when it comes to RFP. When you get the proposals for RFP, you will get for the services that you're looking for, the company will say, this is what we can do. They will write out exactly how they would do it, their strategy, and they would write out a budget that they're proposing to do that work. And then you, as the TAC, can review those proposals and
make
see,
recommendations.
who is proposing the best proposal, who's the most creative, and how much money you want to spend, and kind of make recommendations on which one to go with.
So, and then, once we do that, for Tracy's sake, are they gonna tell us how much they spend on lodging and fooding and transportation? Is that something that we can ask them or tell them, or they're gonna show us and we're gonna say, no, you need to not spend $5,000 on hotel rooms and food? I mean, isn't that something, we tell them what we want and they're
I
gonna
don't
spend
wanna
it the
get
way
to
they
that.
are, the
Well,
way I
well,
see.
One of the things
Tracy?
that, one of the things that you can require, go ahead, Tracy.
Stay on Holiday Inn.
You can require, for some of the pass-through expenses, for example, that are not as transparent, you can require, receipts or reimbursement basis.
Right, but we can't tell them not to spend it on food. Tracy, that's what I'm trying to get that.
I think we're going over our boundaries.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah,
the
we
city
are.
council
This is-
to give the money, and if they're not happy how they're spending it, that's their problem. That's not what we're about. We're about advising to make things better in Sylvan. That's what I say.
Right,
Okay, as an independent contractor that my husband is, when he bids on a job, he has to put that, but he has to show all his receipts to the client. And we don't see any of the receipts, and neither does the council or that. There's never been an itemized, what you spent back. When you give money to the nonprofit, you have to put your money back in. And I'm sorry, it's like when you hire a painting company as an independent contractor to paint the council, you don't expect them to put their lunch time in it. It's part of the overall package.
right. I agree. So why are we digging in, why are we looking at that? But anyway, so that's what I want to know. So we'll give them what we want and they spend the money how they please. If we don't like it, then we certainly don't rehire them at the end of the
Yeah,
year.
I agree, totally agree.
Yeah,
And apparently Tracy right now is not happy with the way money is being spent, and I get that. So, so we need to convey that to IDK, but again, we're getting slightly off the subject. Right now, we're trying to get to the approval of the extension to the end of 22, correct? Is that what we're trying to focus on now?
right.
Is there
Make a
anyone against them
recommendation.
being extended to 2022, to the end of the year?
And so that we can so Zena can make a recommendation, or we make a recommendation to the city council.
I would communicate your recommendation to the city.
So
we
what we
got a
need
hand
to
up.
do is to vote on
We've got a hand up. Yes, Tracy?
I'm going to vote, if you're asking me, I'm going to vote no then. I would not be approving. I don't agree with where we went from 1 month to the next month, from the time we've gone from November, December to now. No, I don't agree. We said we wanted one thing and now we're totally just on a different page and we're not looking and we're just rubber stamping. I can't do that, I'm sorry. I apologize, but I can't do it. That's how I feel, so it's just my opinion.
That's
How
fine.
you feel?
Anyone else? We're down to the wire. Okay, I think I need to have a motion to extend and to put to the council that we extend IDK to December the 31st, 2022. Do I have a,
Again, is that what you're looking for, Zena? In this particular meeting at this point?
That is something that you can make a motion like that under this agenda item. I would like to know if the TAC could make recommendations for the RFP or whatever future direction for marketing by beginning of June or May, just so that I could work with city council on the next
but we
budget
want, I
development.
suggest we do the overview and not.
For 23?
Correct. So if you could make some recommendations by May or June, I could
Okay.
work that into the next financial plan and know that there will be, a switch in a different direction in 2023.
Is there a motion?
We don't
for
do
you?
that, so we don't do that today then.
So right now, the motion is to extend our
IDK,
IDK through December 31, 2022. Is there a second?
Yes.
Yes. Oh,
Okay, so we have a first by Chair Prescott, second by Member Jensen was the first one. And if everybody in favor would say aye.
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 I,
Everybody, anybody opposed, say nay.
Nay,
Okay, so it passes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 1. 6 yes, 1 no. Oh, actually, five yes, 1 no, sorry. Okay,
Committee member comments, was that a comment? Do we have any more committee member comments?
yes,
Okay.
we want to bring up, what did we just discuss? We want to,
Quarter three, quarter four.
no, it just went right out of my head here. What was it?
Anyone else?
Yeah, let me,
I think his thoughts.
I'd like to say quarter three, we're working on RFP.
Yeah.
Whether it's, and by that time, we've already should have had a discussion and pretty close to a decision on whether we're getting an independent contractor
Yes.
or we're getting a person, a local ground, boots on the ground. And that's how we should at least
Oh.
help set up for which direction.
can I
And then
just
by fourth
clarify
quarter,
what quarter 3 means for you?
like June,
Okay, June through.
June through September, right? I'm
You can
sorry.
look at a calendar later.
Okay.
I remember now what I was going to bring up.
Good.
We would like to bring it to the council to see if we could add a seat to our board and bring on another experienced person. Wasn't that, did you say we could do that during our council or our comments?
Yes.
Yes, you did. So,
Okay.
I agree.
Okay, Max, you stole mine.
Totally agree.
That's what I was gonna recommend, but I have some other things. My comments are that, has IDK, when will they give us a marketing plan that'll go from June till December? So we need to make sure that,
So that will be, it's not approved by the council yet. Right now, what's been approved is December through June. No, the December through June has been approved by the TAC and the council.
okay.
And you're gonna go back to them and ask them to go
I am
through.
going to
And
put
then
it.
they'll give us a marketing plan for the balance of the year.
If it gets
So
approved.
If
When
it gets approved.
the city council will have to vote as to whether they agree with your recommendation or provide with alternate direction. If they approve extension of the contract, then we would once again work with IDK to, on the terms of that contract and execute the contract.
The other thing is, you know, we have the new theater opening in June, from what I hear. And
The what?
Our new outdoor theater.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
It'll be opening in June. Is the city planning anything at all or to market that opening, or are we doing anything at all to support the Theater Fest?
It's a good
It's gonna be
question.
it's gonna be a great marketing tool for the hotels and restaurants. And I just think that needs to be, we need to start working on that now.
I think that next meeting, we should bring that up with IDK and add that into the other things we suggested, because we forgot about that, to be honest.
And then the only other thing I want to talk to you about, at Christmas time, you know, the tree lights went out when we had the rain, and the electrical box was full of water. You know, we have Ellen Needham, you know, taking care of the tree from Valley Gardeners. But what I think, any electrical or anything that goes on in the park is part of the city's responsibility. Because, you know, like that electrical box where the tree is in the planter, that should be the responsibility of the city to take care of that. And I heard that.
Did you bring that up to them?
No, I haven't, I'm bringing it up now.
So the tree decorations was part of IDK's
Right.
Best management, and however, it was hooked up to the electricity.
But the electrical box was full of water. That's the reason why the tree didn't go on.
So whose responsibility is that, I guess, the question, right?
That's what I was
City.
told.
Yeah.
What do you say, Max?
The cities, that's the city parks and rec, they gotta
Yeah,
take
but
care
I
of it.
heard-
Tracy?
There's no such thing as parks and rec anymore, there's recreation.
All right.
Okay.
Roads.
Oh,
Yeah, I heard
getting
that.
technical.
Okay, city roads and maintenance, I know, and I took photographs on the day, why were they putting up Christmas lights in the park is my question. And that was, you just said that was IDK's, that's why I question a lot of this. I watched my city employees putting up Christmas lights in the park. So that's why I question things, just what we're talking about right now.
Christmas lights on the Christmas tree?
I don't understand what you just said, Tracy.
I do.
What is it?
Three times in December, John, the city of Solvang Maintenance Department was putting up Christmas lights in the park.
Okay, but,
On the tree or the lights?
Yes, no, not on the other trees, on the wrapped trees.
oh, right,
On the edge of the park.
on the street trees.
Yeah.
No, I'm
Yeah.
saying IDK put up the lights on the tree, I'm talking about the Christmas tree in the park.
Yeah, and the city has always put up and wrapped this tree, they wrapped tree lights around the trees at my shoe store, all up and down
Oh,
all the
wait,
streets.
I'm not
That's-
talking about that, Max.
I know,
Talking
but
about
Tracy is.
The one
That's what I
tree.
question of the contract. What part is the contract of how much the city does one time a year and how much does IDK? Because I expect that to be part of the Christmas contract. And I'm just saying, was it part of the blue lights? That's why I question things, you guys. I'm sorry.
Well, the blue lights were not, they were put up by IDK, and
Okay.
the trees were wrapped by city like they have been for as long as we've been wrapping trees.
Right. Yeah,
The Christmas tree were they decorating the Christmas tree?
yeah, IDK
Or wrapping
decorated,
trees?
IDK decorated and put the lights up on the single tree in the
Yeah.
park I'm talking about. The one that
Okay.
we raised, the local business people raised money for.
Right.
okay? That tree, the lights went off
Yeah,
Because the electrical box.
because the electrical box was full of water, I was told. And when
And that's-
someone called the city, they said it wasn't their responsibility.
The issue.
that would be.
Well, actually, the subcontractor of IDK were there and they did fix the issue several
Okay.
times and they were the ones installing that equipment.
Okay, that's
for the tree.
clear, okay.
So that was
But
their
that could be the
responsibility.
city's department.
So back in the day before IDK, I believe it was always the city, back then Parks and Recreation Department, that used to decorate the Christmas tree. Since the city
Right.
has been contracting out Yule Fest to IDK, decorating of the tree has been with IDK. So I think one of the things that you're running into here is that sometimes what's included in the management of those events, there isn't very clear terms where the boundaries cross between IDK, the contractor, and the city.
So,
All right, we just found one spot.
there we go. Another discussion.
Okay,
Okay.
Okay.
And can I just bring this up? I have other questions of our city heaters they were paid for by IDK and they've been confiscated by certain individuals. I have problems with that and our code enforcement does nothing about it. And, I feel really bad when my visitor center calls me and says, what should I do? That, they've all been taken away and Scott, really did a nice job trying to put things together. We're missing the boat here, that's all I'm saying, on some issues. Things were done good, but I think there needs to be more clarity.
And
Well, that's
code enforcement was out there in the evening
Yes.
when those reports were made and the persons confiscating the heaters were talked to and warned.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a code enforcement deal. That has nothing to do with IDK.
It doesn't matter when, we don't know what, I'm just saying, there's a lot of who's doing what, who's paying for what, it needs to be much more clarified, that's all I'm saying on things.
Okay. Any other committee member comments? All right. City staff comments?
I look forward to developing that RFP.
Okay. And
Excellent.
this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Thank you. Great job.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
John, you're gonna show me back, huh?